for this second day of roundtables with the first conference that will go into the heart of festivals here in French Guiana and in the Amazonian basin. It's going to be about film festivals and professional dynamics. We'll speak about different questions, what participants for which audience, with in participants who are present here and others who will be joining us remotely. For those of us who need it, we invite you to activate the interpreting function by clicking on the globe. So we have Irina, Ruiz, Lara, Souza, Mohamed, Ouma, Sylvaine, Dampierre, Aiko Roudet, and for a more complete introduction, please welcome Frédéric Violot. On behalf of the team, I would like to thank the FIFAC for organizing this roundtable. I'd like to talk about the importance of this theme for professional development. We've also observed how festivals have been evolving, organization of co-production meetings, labs, workshops, and post-production projects that are being developed a little bit all over the world. And it seemed to us to be pertinent to speak about this together, especially, first of all, here in French Guiana, we first of all created workshop with Doc Amazi CARIBBE, AVM, and then thanks to the support of France TV, we were able to bring in the public, and we created the FIFAC Festival 4 years ago. And now the next stage is cooperation between different festivals in the Caribbean region. We are lucky to have Irina with us here, who was able to travel to French Guiana. And we also would like to hear the experiences of other professionals, which is why we contacted Lara, who represents an initiative in the Canary Islands, another European territory, which has the same constraints and deals with the same issues as we do here. So she can be a bridge between the territories and the audiences and the other festivals. And then Mohamed Ouma, who is also from an island, over in the Comoros and Reunion Island, and who has a view as his role of director of documentary Africa, and who has a good sense of what the needs are among professionals and has been working on cooperation between initiatives that have to be strengthened, always at the service of the professional sector, and see what we can come up with that would be the most pertinent. So that is my introduction. Thank you, Marielle, for being the moderator. So we'll begin with our first speaker, who is a director and producer for ACAMPADOC. She comes from Panama. Thank you for coming, Irina Ruiz. So how is this festival going for you? Can you give us a little introduction, please?
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. This film festival is it's been happening since 11 years in the central region of Panama. One thing that is very important is that we select films that are interested in living heritage. We have 10 days of festival, and what is important is that everything, all the screenings are free for the communities. We are also an eco-responsible festival. We give living prizes that actually are big trees that are near the basin of the river. So each prize can be seen using Google Maps if you wish.
En fait, nous sommes aussi un festival éco-responsable et les prix prennent la forme de grands arbres qui sont près de la rivière et qui sont ainsi visibles de tous.
Another thing that is very important for our festival is that we are in a place that there was no production of documentary, there was no public for a documentary.
L'autre chose importante à savoir, c'est que chez nous, il n'y avait pas de marché, d'industrie documentaire, ni de public pour le film documentaire.
For that reason, we create, along with the film festivals, along with that, activities for the communities, we create a film school based in documentaries, and we produce fresh content for a festival. So after those 10 days, we have more than 20, well, this year we had 20 fresh films made by the students for the festival.
Donc en parallèle à ce festival, nous avons créé des écoles de films documentaires, ce qui fait qu'au dans le cadre de ce festival, des productions de documentaires sont réalisées et qu'au terme de ce festival, une vingtaine de films d'études sont présentés.
The international competition is for short films, for length films, and also for animation or documentaries with animation films, especially for the young audience.
La compétition internationale couvre à la fois les courts-métrages, les longs-métrages, mais aussi les films d'animation qui permettent d'impliquer le public jeune.
And I think that's it. we will open call every January 1st.
Nous allons lancer l'initiative le 1er janvier.
You have workshops. Do you support authors who develop films? I think Omar also went through what your work at ACAMPADOC.
Yes, thank you. The educational programs are simultaneously with the film festival that happens mostly during the night.
Donc en fait, le programme éducatif se tient dans le cadre du festival. Les films sont projetés le soir et la partie éducative dans la journée.
It's very important that we develop during these days a very immersive program that is called Film Camp or Le Campamento, du Campamento. No? Okay, I can continue. And the film camp is for the young people that have never been involved in cinema, and this is like for a new talent. Also, there is another space that is called La Résidence, and that is for the students that came from probably from the campament or came from another countries that wish to develop their first or second feature film. In that reason, in that way, we follow them, all the talents that come to ACAMPADOC. And it's very important because after they develop their project with us, they are almost ready to go to international markets. They are ready to pitch, they are ready to present a dossier to the international funds. They can present and also get financial funds for the pictures, for the films, and after 1 or 2 years, those projects come back to the festival. And this is so great, so we close the circle.
Je vais faire la traduction peut-être.
Refermer la boucle d'une certaine manière, car une fois qu'ils ont participé à ce premier travail, ils sont prêts à se présenter sur le marché international, à faire des pitches, présenter leurs projets, faire des demandes de financement, etc. Ce qui fait qu'au bout de 2 ans, on les voit revenir au festival, et ce qui, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, permet de boucler la.
So it's an educational tool, a training tool, And if we understand properly, you have a whole series of workshops and you monitor them afterwards so that they can come back to this festival. It's a wonderful initiative. Do you have many participants
Well,
every year, many requests?
in fact, yes. During the pandemic, we did a crazy thing that was accepting anyone that could enter in a Zoom room to get all the workshops, and that was thanks to the help with Ibermedia program and also the Ministry of Culture of Panama, that they believe in what we are doing. So many years and after years, we are benefit students that come from regions, from the province, also indigenous peoples. We are also genre-based. So we provide that, that vision in order to benefit those talents that cannot get into a university or to study cinema in Central America and also in the Caribbean.
Alors vous avez dit.
Also, this year, after the pandemic, we came back in June to make all the ACAMPADOC with more than 50 talented students that came to Panama from all over the Iberoamerica, and that was great to come back to real shootings, real atelier with the students.
Et donc en juin dernier, après la pandémie, on a pu organiser un événement qui a accueilli une cinquantaine d'étudiants qui venaient de toute l'Amérique hispanophone pour participer à un événement tous ensemble, et ça a été fantastique pour nous de pouvoir réaliser ça après la pandémie.
And so, Irina, you said that the festival lasts 10 days. How many films are being broadcast over the 10 days?
During the pandemic, we had the opportunity to make some streamings, and this more flexible. But this year we closed the program. The program. This is very tight program. Only 8 long feature films and more than 15 or 20 short films or animations to make equilibrium in the program. Also, the last 2 days are reserved for our production. So it's very important for the community to get together all the days with the program, because they know that the last day they will see themselves in the big screen.
If there are films that you are going to be able to watch here in this festival or afterwards, why not a local French Guyanese production shown at the next ACAMPADOC festival?
For sure, yes. This is why I spent 2 days looking all the program, and which I was interested in some specific auteurs. And the idea of cooperate internationally is that now we have the opportunity to meet other festivals, other performers in other territories, small territories that now are alliances, are good alliances with ACAMPADOC.
Thank you very much, Irina. Stay with us, of course. We're going to be talking with you throughout this round table. We remind our listeners that you're the director of the ACAMPADOC Festival in Panama. If you are connected, you can ask your questions, and we remind you that you have to activate the interpretation function on Zoom to hear the translations. And if you have questions, you can send them to us in the chat. Collaborate, create links between professionals and with audiences, with spectators. This is the subject we're going to be discussing throughout this roundtable. So, Frédéric, we're now going to join our second speaker, who is on video. Is Lara with us? We really want to have her point of view because she has a very interesting profile. You're a Mozambican producer. It's choppy, sorry. You are, can you present the activities that you offer to professionals at MIRADAS Doc Festival, please? Sorry, the sound was cut.
No worries. Hello, good afternoon, good morning. I'm sorry, I'm a bit sick, so my voice generally it's not like this. And thank you so much for the invitation. And first, I would like to just say congratulations for the pitch session the other day. I really enjoyed it, and I love to see my Cuban colleagues presenting their projects and showing independent Cuban cinema shining in the world. So congratulations for that. And okay, I'm gonna change my hat and go back to Miradas. Miradas Doc is a film festival in Tenerife, in Guia de Sora, which is in the mountains of Tenerife. The festival itself has been running for the last 15 years. And about 7 years ago, they opened the market, also the industry space. The film festival and the market is a bridge between Latin America and Africa because of the special location that the Canary Islands have in the mid between Europe, Latin America, and Africa. So at the beginning was the proposal was to select films from Africa, Latin America, and the Mediterranean Sea to be screened in this special location where people need to have access to films and to open the points of view as an island. And from that, it started to grow and started to take different shapes. I jumped the project 4 years ago as the labs coordinator and the training coordinator. Inside of the market, we have 3 labs. One is for animated documentary, and it's run by it's a partnership that we have with ANIDocs, with Michel and Nuri Kranot from Denmark. The other lab is Afro-Latam, which is for projects that have a direct relation that establish a direct relation between Latin America and Africa. It can be a production relation. It can be a thematic relation. So basically, is for Black narratives of Latin America and African narratives that can find a co-production scheme with the Latin American country. And then we have the other lab, which is DocSur, which is for projects from Latin America and Africa and Europe, some Mediterranean countries, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and it's for more developed projects. Generally, we accept projects that are kind of in production or in post-production that have a strong visual material and that are more ready to close deals with broadcasters and sales agents and so on. And we have another lab that we've been running for the last 2 years, which is a work in progress lab. We choose 2 projects in stage of working progress and editing. We choose from our partners. We are partnered with different labs and festivals such as Doc CCP in São Paulo, Doc Montevideo, Doc MX in Mexico, Oaga Film Lab, Durban Film Lab, Durban Film Market. So in these labs, we choose 2 different projects to be there and to work with an expert, an edit expert for a week. This is our package of training. We also have another incubator that works a bit earlier from the market, which is MIRADAS Afro, which is an incubator tailored for Black narratives in Africa, in outside of Africa. It's an online incubator that we've been running for this was the second year, and it's working really well. And our idea as ACAMPADOC is to do the full circle of the projects. We see the project in development, and then we meet the project again in post-production, and then we screen at the festival. In terms of the pitch, we are a kind of smallish market, but we are small because we want to be small. We want to be familiar. We have around 30 to 40 guests, so decision makers invited from funds as Sundance, Berta Fund, Documentary Africa, and broadcasters mainly from Latin America, Canal Caracol and Canal Curta in Brazil, and mainly from Spain and Italy. So yeah, we are kind of a familiar space, but we still have good decision makers, people that give really good feedback to the projects. The idea is to be this first door to open in a more European industry space for projects from Africa and Latin America. Yeah, that says, I think.
Thank you, Lara. So, Lara, how many days does the festival last? Can you give us an idea?
Yeah, the festival lasts for 12 days and the market lasts for 6 days. Yeah.
And with respect to the support that you provide, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked to Irina. Do you have many requests, or are people hesitating to contact you?
Yeah, we worked the entire year to receive the proposals. We have a lot of partnerships, so we also give feedback to projects in different spaces. We have this incubator, so when we open the call, we generally receive around 250 projects per year, depending on the year. This year was a bit harder, but I think was to all of us after COVID. But generally, we receive around 250 projects for the 3 labs, yeah. And for the festival, I don't know how many films because I don't work on the selection process, but we receive loads of films also. But we have a small amount of slots. We program 20 films per year, yeah.
Thank you for that information. Are there any questions? It's the time now to ask them after the presentation of Irina and Lara. There surely are some questions in the audience or online. We're here to create a dialogue and sharing. We are going to wait a few moments until the end of the presentations and hear about their methods and their professional. But we're also going to be able to open up some avenues for reflection and possibilities. So please feel free to ask any questions you may have, you people in the audience, and also those of you following remotely. So our next speaker is Mohamed Said Ouma. Is he already connected with us? And you can take the floor whenever you like. And in the audience, you can ask questions whenever you like. We will be listening to Emmanuel Chouin, who is the director of the festival first. Good morning, Lara. Thank you for being with us, Lara. I have a few very we can imagine a possible collaboration with FIVAC and DOC Amazonie CARIBBE. First of all, when do you issue your call for projects for the workshops so that we could speak about it here in our territories? And my second question is, how do you finance the travel of the beneficiaries? Does MIRADAS doc that pays for their travel expenses, or do the beneficiaries have to find their own funding in order to come to see you? Thank you.
Yeah, we generally launch the call in June. We are about to finish the selection process, so if we close the call in September, but there are always exceptions, especially because we are really committed to bring new voices, which are not new but not so heard voices from certain regions. So we are always open to make exceptions, to open exceptions to receive projects that are a bit out of the call, but they are coming from spaces that we want to champ in that year. So we are always open to talk about it, and that's why I'm here also. In terms of the finance, well, finance of film festivals are always a miracle. We never know how we do each year. I think all of us know that, and I'm maybe it's that is why I work for a film festival, because it's like doing cinema. You never know how you do it. We work with public funding, which is good in many ways because it's there every year. So part of the travels are financed by this public money. Normally we finance one of we normally invite 2 persons from the team and we finance one. That is the normal case. Of course, if that we open exceptions and we manage internally, depending on the country that the project is coming, because we have different partners. We have the partners that fund the projects from Africa. We have ones from Latin America. We have different partners, so we always try to do our best to pay the full travels, but it's normally it's not possible for 2 persons, so we generally go for the director or the producer, with the one that are more available or more capable to come, and the other we support as we can, but generally it's not fully covered. Yeah.
It's certain that in this sector, That's often the biggest obstacle, that financing in order to have these exchanges, to travel from one country to another, to participate in these professionalization sessions. Mohamed Said Ouma is with us. He's the director of Documentary Africa. Thank you for joining us. Of course, Lara is going to stay with us and she can take the floor whenever she likes. Hello, Mohamed. Welcome. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you just fine. Hello, good morning. I don't know what time it is over there. It's still the morning, yes, indeed. You got it right. As for the other speakers, can you please give us a short presentation of your activities? Because as Frédéric Violoff mentioned, you have a very large experience of this sector. Yes, I think I know why Frédéric invited me, both for my experience in the Indian Ocean Islands, because we are running a scheme of residencies, and we have been doing this since 2000, 2006, precisely, between the islands of the Indian Ocean, Reunion, Madagascar, Mauritius, the Comoros Islands, and for cinema professionals in Africa, but it's a fund, but which took a long time to set up, because it was set up by professionals. I don't understand why you can't hear me. Frédéric's invitation to Mohamed, you mentioned, Frédéric, that he had a lot of experience, but not only in Africa, in the Indian Ocean. He is with us and he will be able to tell us more. Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now? Yes, we can hear you very well. Go ahead. So I was saying that DocA is both a platform which works at several levels. There is a level that is quite simple to understand. We provide funds, grants, to filmmakers and producers who are based in Africa and who are working on the African continent. Those are development aids, and we give them where we feel they will have the most impact. And we also support documentary organizations. This is support that can both be directly a financial aid, but it can also be indirect support, because certain organizations organize residencies or carry out support programs. And in those cases, DocA can intervene by funding the mentors. We also work on another aspect, which is more complementary, in which we have created with Doc Monde, which Frédéric directs, and other documentary Pan-African organizations. We did Art Africa Collective, a network where we try to set up tools and resources for the documentary ecosystem, both in Africa and in the diaspora. And that is a very schematic view of documentaries, Africa's work. And it's we work in Africa in the sense that we are interested in, and we try to help and to be complementary to all initiatives on documentary cinema in Africa. We also encourage the complementarity and co-production with international partners, with spaces that have things to say or have things to say in correspondence with our other African filmmakers. Hence, the presence of Doca Amarendas Doc, and our presence in international festivals like here in French Guiana and elsewhere. So the idea is that documentary cinema occupies a space, a sort of a niche, both in the African continent, or if we are in the Caribbean or in French Guiana, we need to understand that financing opportunities, development of audiences, opportunities for co-production are less significant than for fiction works. And in that space, which is quite fragile, this documentary film space, I think it's important when we are an author, when we have a project, to try and find one's network and find partners and collaborators wherever they may be located in the world. I think that today, the deciders and producers, even in Europe, are having the same difficulties that we are experiencing on the continent. I think we're speaking about art house cinema and creative documentaries, and I think their difficulties are the same, even in Europe, wherever we are on the planet. So I think there is a lot of interest for you and for us to find bridges, sustainable and long-term bridges between us so we can collaborate. So that's one of the aspects of our work. Another aspect is that we began in 2006 in the Indian Ocean islands, because we were a little bit on the sidelines, both of the African contact and of Europe. We were on the sidelines, and we launched an informal collaboration with cinema festivals, a festival that no longer takes place in Lyon that was called FIFAI, another festival in Mauritius. We also were working in Madagascar, in the Comoros. We initiated these collaborations where we were able to bring authors from the islands to the different festivals, and we were able to set up writing residencies for fiction and documentaries. And this has been going on now for about 10 years, and we have 47% success rate. That means 1 film out of 2 is produced. And the idea is that I am in favor of collaboration, because if you come from an island, you are immediately exposed to being isolated, and you cannot make your films alone, and you immediately need to leave your island. So basically, this is an overview of the work that we do here in the Indian Ocean and in the African continent, we at DOC Africa. Thank you very much for this very detailed presentation, which is raising a lot of questions. For example, if a young director from French Guiana would like to benefit, why not, and be supported by your structure, is it possible? It's possible in the sense that the idea for us is that this is a Pan-African fund. It's a fund that was initiated by the producers that have been working on the continent. And the idea for us is if the French Guyanese director has a project that resonates with the Africa, and if he has a co-producer or artistic partners, we're not talking about somebody who just has like a PO box on the Africa. If he really has a collaboration with people on the African continent, yes, he can contact us, because we're all part of the global South, and there's a lot of resonance and a lot of things that I heard a few days ago that really resonate with us. And we could have filmmakers who submit their projects to us. I think what we would ask is, does the project resonate with us? Does the project need a producer? Is the project looking for an artistic collaboration on the content? And then in that case, yes. But if they're just looking for money, it would be more difficult, because there are very strict eligibility criteria. The producer has to be based in Africa to be eligible. Yes, of course. So how could we imagine this articulation? I'm trying to be very concrete here. How could the young director come to you? Would there be a support would we need to bring support from our Ministry of Culture or from the fund? Who takes care of what expenditures? How would they be welcomed? Where would they be accommodated, etc.? If a young author, I told you that we work at several levels. The simplest level is that people ask for production aid. These are direct requests for financial support. And producers from Africa are eligible there. But if it's a young director who wants to come to the continent and wants to work, for example, with a partner of Doka or somebody in Kenya, or wants to do a writing residency, or wants to go to encounters in South Africa or in Tunisia, the project will determine the arrangements. It depends on what the person wants to do. It's the project itself that determines. The project determines the arrangements. If that project has a narrative that happens in Africa or has a link to the African continent, at that time it would be better to write to us and to apply for a residency. And at that point, we would look at the arrangement, the terms and the conditions with our partners, with DOCA or partners in French Guiana. But what is important to understand is that the project is going to define the arrangements and how it will work, and not the opposite. It's always in that direction. Thank you very much for those very concrete elements that will enable to those who are following us here in the room and online to understand and have specific information. So Mohamed, please stay with us. Frédéric, we're now going to pass the floor to our last speaker, and then we'll be able to open the floor and have a discussion, maybe even an argument, a joint argument, we never know, but we'll see how we can improve this professional dynamic through our festivals. So Sylvaine, your profile interested us because now you're a speaker and you also have a view on the different things that have happened and are happening in the documentary film sector. What seems to you important as a participant, as an actor, to satisfy the needs of young filmmakers? Have you assessed your experience? Yes, I work more on the support and the training side at VARAN, CARIBBE in Guadeloupe. I'm also a filmmaker, so I also attend quite a few festivals where I'm asked to meet young authors who are gathered there in workshops. I have observed the development, this exponential development of this phenomenon of support to the filmmaking industry. And obviously, these are opportunities that are fantastic for authors. After that, I think that there are degrees. First of all, what do we call an author? This could be a totally emerging author, something who is approaching documentary filmmaking through writing, who has no experience, practical experience. We can have a young filmmaker who's been to film school. We're speaking about very different populations here. And I think we should distinguish the accelerator aspect for young professionals who are already well engaged in the beginning of their career, and we can have labs and short sessions for them during festivals. But I think we have to take a more long-time approach to support emerging authors who are young or less young people who want to gain access to this means of expression, which is filmmaking and more particularly documentary filmmaking, and they want to film certain narratives, certain subjects, but are quite disconnected, and for good reason, from documentary practice. I practice this as a trainer at the workshops at VARAN CARIBBE, which is completely based on immersion by practice, so that they can get the fundamental gestures that are needed to make a film. And for writing, I think ideally, a young author, a young or less young author, somebody who wants to get into this sector for the first time and who has a project for a first film, I think ideally that person has to do their first actions and go through practice, practical exercises. In all our workshops, we always go through practical exercises. We have to start to film, and we go beyond simply drafting a production file, which always comes at the end of the process and is not necessarily the end purpose. What we mean by writing, it's a creative process and a drafting process. And it also includes cinematographic writing, and not just writing the most efficient application. So I think all of these opportunities are essential. And of course, in countries and in the regions that we're interested in, these actions are extremely important. They're very structuring. They enable people to meet up with partners and get support. I think that these actions should be based on individualized support, and that this takes place over a longer period. And this is difficult because this is costly, but I think it's absolutely necessary. If I think about Guadeloupe, where I work regularly, I can see that the people who send me projects are extremely far away from practical experience, from the idea, the concept of what a documentary film is. They have a subject in their mind. So it's very complicated. We manage it, but if we only talk about writing, it's hard to found all of that, to redesign all of that. And I think it would be very important for them to go through a practical experience, to work in a practical workshop, and all of that takes time. And I think that ideally, between all of these professional meetings during festivals and this process, it's a long-term process. I don't think we obviously shouldn't explain to people how they should make their film. I'm not an expert. I know that there are experts, but I am not one of them. I think the idea is to support them in giving form to a desire, and that takes quite a bit of time. It takes some concentration and stages, interventions that take place at different steps of research on the ground for the authors. So here we are again talking about the time span, the temporality of events. So once again, we can ask the question again, who should intervene to help whom, depending on their quote unquote level and their project. So for you, sometimes you have difficulties because of the projects, vis-a-vis the projects that you're receiving. So how do you solve that problem? Clearly, we have projects. It depends on what time span we're talking about. For the selection, always takes place based on the project that we receive. Sometimes the projects are too far from the basis for us to be able to work on them in the time that we have at hand. So I advise those people to go and attend a practical workshop first, because at any rate, we are always working within a framework, within a precise program. Of course, we can give a little additional time, but sometimes I have the feeling that before we talk about working on the writing of a project, I think those people should have a very practical experience, that they are physically involved in directing, so they can acquire this correspondence, which is sometimes a bit mysterious for people. I think it's hard for them to imagine how they can create a documentary. When they see a fiction film, they can imagine how they can create a screenplay. But when people want to do a documentary film, it's hard for them to understand how they can write it. It's hard for them to understand, and it's much clearer for them once they have gone through a practical workshop, a hands-on workshop. So yes, I think it's better not to accept a project right away, but it's better to, the idea the ideal would be to propose an alternative to that applicant, to give them another way to work and see them later. So I think we have a few informations with local structures here in Saint-Laurent-du-Maroni. We have some structures that work on the same thing. Mohamed, who is in Africa, wants to ask a question. It's not really a question. I just wanted to second what Sylvaine said. We get more than 1,200 projects per year. So this is a great selection because we are a fund. We also get questions from people who organize residencies, and we also receive requests from people who want to receive mentorships or want to enter our residency programs. And I think this whole scheme and all of these support systems that have emerged over the past 15 years are behind that. But I think there are a lot of dangers that we're seeing emerging in Africa because we are seeing people that we have helped, that we sent to workshops 3 or 4 years before, and we see those same people in different residencies. So we see ourselves at the danger of organizing residencies for the sake of organizing residencies, and that is a true danger. The project in itself, the film has its own identity, its own rhythm to come into existence. And sometimes we just need the good producer to support that project. We don't necessarily need the author to have a residency. Sometimes the author doesn't really need that. We need to analyze very carefully the true need, the true desire of the applicant, and to figure out where they have to go. Because in fine, if you go to a step, you cannot go back to that a step again, do a residency, and then go back and do another one. You should be advancing through the stages towards making a film. The idea is at the end of the process of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we have a film that comes out and that the author doesn't get blocked at a certain level of the process. And that's very important. I think today we who direct structures and organize residencies, we need to tell all these authors, okay, very good, but try and analyze closely what you need so that you can move up to another step in your project. Maybe you don't need a residency, but maybe you simply need to find the right producer for your work. So we need to take time. They also need to take the time to become more mature and find the proper partners to move their project forward. Yes, of course, anybody can take the floor whenever they would like to. We have Lara who would like to speak, and then we'll take a question from the audience here. Lara, you have the floor.
Yeah, I wanted to add here because I think, and it's something that we've been discussing a lot internally, and that is why MIRADAS Afro came out as an incubator instead of only having labs that we call labs, but it's a preparation to pitch. And suddenly we are creating these spaces that seems that we work on the projects, on the narratives, but we just form them well to be presented. And I believe that since we are all on this journey to champ the projects and to champ new voices and to champ cinema in our regions, I think the best way would be to articulate all our initiatives and understand how they can be a full cycle among us, like I coordinate a pitch lab, so that will arrive later in a process that starts in a more narrative space, and then when the projects are ready, they go to pitch. Because generally what we also receive is projects that need to be seen because they need money, but they are not ready to pitch. And pitch can be also a hard space for a project. It can destroy a project because the view, it's not already settled. The narrative questions are not been asked, and suddenly you are pitching and you are selling to a fund or whatever. So I think in my point of view, like since we are many initiatives right now, would be really nice to see how we can start to coordinate and to communicate among us, because the projects circulate in our hands. They go from Documentary Africa to me to others, no? And how we can all together help and guide these projects to the best of the projects itself, and not on our profit as markets, as spaces, because of course we have our own agendas to bring new voices, to bring new regions, but the most important, we need to watch good films from these regions at the end. It's not only about projects, it's about films. It's about good documentaries that challenge the views and challenge the way that we see our countries and our realities. So yeah, that is my contribution right now. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Lara. Yes, indeed, that opens possibilities to reflect on working more together and see how we can improve concretely our work. We have a question from the audience. Can you introduce yourself? Yes, I'm a producer. I would like to go back to what Mohamed said, because I have my own story to say about that. I recently met a producer, or rather a director, who was pitching, and with whom I'm going to commit to producing her film. And she had done quite a few residencies, and she was once again being solicited to do a residency, and she had been invited, and she was getting a bit tired of these residencies. It was both, for me as a producer, a place, a residency where I could meet authors. For me, it's really indispensable. It's a place where you can maybe meet someone. Maybe it's a meeting with a person that might determine whether we're going to work together or not. I think it's the human contact that will lead to a joint work on a film. And of course, we work on the writing with the author. But going back to the story of getting tired, this sort of residency fatigue, at one point, a film that doesn't enter into the creative process through experiences, it tires you out. It wears you out psychologically, emotionally, and your creativity. And it's both extraordinary and it can be dangerous. And I realized that at several times. So I think we have to be careful on who you invite, because the people who are invited, when they have already done a certain number of presentations of their project, they have to be careful. You have to be careful. It's not because the projects are good that they are eventually carried out. We have to make sure that the good meetings are taking place, and we have to set them up. We agree totally. We are extremely careful at Doc Monde to not enable people to go from one workshop to another without thinking about it. And I want to go back to what Mohamed was saying about what could be a problem in this type of workshop rationale. We have to act as expert and provide advice. And I think that there has been a true evolution in the industry, that in these festivals we have this support, especially in our sector where they're not much available, where there's not much institutional support for the industry. We have to be careful that we don't tire people out thinking that we have the good strategy, and we have to be very careful. And I spoke about this. I would like to hear what Irina says about this, because you have an international festival. You're the only festival in Central America that offers this type of activity. Do you also encounter this type of fatigue? Do you always accept the projects that are given to you, or do you sometimes orient them elsewhere?
Okay, based on that topic, there are two main ideas. One idea is that we help all the talents that come to ACAMPADOC with a network of teachers. Most of the teachers from ACAMPADOC are based in Central America, in the Caribbean, and the thing is that since we are the only film festival that is bringing all the documentaries together just for speak about documentaries about 10 days, you know, this is a great opportunity. We are not a market. We do not intend to become a market, but we prepare our students to cross that border, to get that panorama, the panorama that they can encounter, and we also co-produce with them because we follow them. And after 1 year, we ask, do you need something? Do you apply to that thing, to that another? And I'm always like a kind of a mother or a chicken or a hen with the chicken, kind of that. And I can remember all the projects since 2012. All these, oh, sorry. And the second idea is that since I read too many projects, the whole year I'm reading projects from the South, from Argentina, I also select one project from 80 projects from Argentina year by year for the Bolivia lab in Bolivia. So this space is very huge. The open call brings many projects, so for that reason we have like one jury per country, especially. But in the Caribbean, you cannot find projects from Haiti, from Guadeloupe. I will love to receive those kind of projects because I really do not accept many projects from the South or from the industries. I receive projects from Brazil because we have teachers that speak Portuguese. But one thing, well, I will.
There is a video that's going to be offered to you, shown to you, so we can get a bit closer to Panama and ACAMPADOC. And thank you, Irina, by the way, for giving us that video that we're going to watch immediately.
En el cementerio, perfume de rosa, velita de color. Oh, oh. Oye, esto,
Thank you very much for that lovely presentation. And we recognize one of the pitchers who was here with us and who really impressed us the other day. The time is passing very quickly, but to conclude on possibilities for the future and for needs, I would like to give you once again the floor, Irina, and then we're going to move to the others. So go ahead, Irina. Your little conclusion.
You are all welcome to come to Panama. Of course, once you come to ACAMPADOC, you never leave ACAMPADOC. It's a family also, similar like to MIRADAS Doc. Every time you come to La Villa de los Santos, that's very, very small town, but you get a family, you get a festival, and you can bring all the movies, all the projects that you have, just send that to you just look at the website, acampadoc.com, and just find the ways to write us. Thank you so much for the invitation.
The interpreter apologizes. She is not getting it. Okay, very well. We understand that. We understood that we're all welcome in Panama. My bags are already packed. Believe me, Irina. Now we're going to pass the floor to Lara maintenant, so that she can give us her short conclusion about collaboration. That's the word that kept coming back among all the speakers, collaboration. It's very encouraging when we talk about collaboration. Laura, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think for us collaboration is the key, and I think we from Miradas we know that we want to do what all of us are here to do, which is bringing good films to screens. So for me, that is the key. And since I started to work in Miradas, that was the main goal, was to build bigger bridges from south to south. And our idea is also in the labs is to put producers and directors together from Latin America and Africa, so they can start to build their own bridges and not needing to go to Europe every time that they need to do a film. So this idea of the Global South as a way also to continue to do films and continue to work on documentary in more in our own terms is something that we really want to see coming to life every year more and more. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. And you are all welcome in Miradas, of course, in a way or another. I'm sure that we're gonna see each other there in the next years. Yeah.
Yes, that's a lot of suitcases that we have to pack, but we accept your invitation. Thank you, Lara. And the magic of festivals is also the links, the ties that are going to be created between professionals, which is one of the reasons why we organize these professional gatherings. Links between professionals, but also links with the audience. We were speaking about that before the roundtable even opened. Yes, absolutely, because the festival is, first of all, presenting films. In the history of festivals, this is what has justified their existence, show films to the public. And I think that the presence of directors is always important to support a film. And these ties between professionals and the general public in the festivals enables us to focus on that practice. There are a lot of meetings that take place between directors who are present and audiences. As Sylvaine said earlier, that way they can explain to the audience what a documentary is. For example, AVM here in Saint Laurent with their work, and also FIVAC is doing a lot of work in high schools and working with young authors. And we see that things are getting concrete. For example, Kurt Aguinti and Christophe Pierre, who were on the other side and have become now professionals and have made films. And I think that's one of the main meanings of what we're doing here. One of the main ideas is to help talents to emerge. And again, we see that there are territories where it's perhaps even more important than elsewhere, because we spoke about local communities in another roundtable, and it's absolutely essential, and that is also relevant for France. And FIFAC beforehand had already started supporting people who had been chosen, and we work with them beforehand, during, and afterwards, like ACAMPADOC and MIRADAS too. If anyone wants to intervene, they're perfectly welcome to do so. Would you like to do a little conclusion, Mohamed? Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for this invitation, and long life to FIFAC and the other festivals. I know what it's like to organize a festival. We used to hold one for many years in Réunion. It's very nice. I want to say maybe that if there are authors in French Guiana, producers, professionals whose projects have a direct link with the African continent, DOCA is a very wonderful platform where they can come. Our contact info is on the festival contact, either to find co-producers. As Lara said, we are working in complementarity. There are very many initiatives that are taking place on the continent. This is a genre that is very well developed on the African continent. Maybe we have a lack of producers for creative documentaries, but we're starting to organize training, and there are many producers that are emerging. We are seeing that in the numerous projects that we receive at DOCA, but there are indeed possibilities. And very often when we're in the French West Indies, in a French overseas departments, we instinctively have the tendency to look towards Paris and to the Nord, which is the most natural and logical relationship. But I think that we can also look towards the South and look towards the African continent, which is just across the ocean, because there's a lot of creative energy and a huge amount of possibilities that exist there. I think that could also be an avenue to explore, and I encourage you to contact us either for co-producers or for those residencies that we spoke about, or for festivals, because we have a lot of things to offer. So that is what I wanted to say. I'm here to preach in favor of collaboration. Thank you, Mohamed. And now it's your turn, Ms. Dampierre. Would you like to add something, maybe something that could be improved? Yes, collaboration. Yes, I just heard what Mohamed said, but I also want to say that we have to link all the different islands in our region together. And I think that is something that has to be built, because yes, there is this type of umbilical cord that links us to France, and the difficulty related to getting projects to exist in this region is very real. But I think it's urgent and necessary to link the islands between them and go throughout all these islands and go through the Caribbean, make sure that the films and creators circulate among all these islands. And for this, FIFAC is a fantastic place where we can meet. But I think that our elementary links that has to be created between Guadeloupe and Haiti, for example, obviously, the links currently are totally insufficient. There are obvious opportunities. There are places like in Haiti where it's complicated to do certain things, but maybe we could displace them temporarily towards their neighbors. I think there's a lot of energy that can be drawn from all these different experiences and experiments. I think these different islands and countries are experiencing our current era completely differently, and I think it would be very interesting to have to develop this juxtaposition of approaches and genres, etc. But if we could all work together in the region, would be really fantastic. I think we should first work on that. not first, but at the same time as the rest. We need to realize that we have to create this network in the Amazonia and Caribbean region. And it's beginning and it's starting to materialize quite well with the FIFAC, which with each year has attempted to allow Haiti to showcase its work. We always bring a producer or a director from Haiti here, and they are with us because we understand the difficulties that they are encountering. And you are also with us, and we haven't forgotten you, and you are definitely contributing to the audiovisual sector. Does Frédéric wish to add something? I just want to conclude by saying, going back to what Mohamed, Lara, and Irina were saying, on our side, we have organizations, we have a form of responsibility vis-a-vis to the authors who are proposing things, but we see that our expertise has to be offered to them, and at one point, we have to tell them that such and such an activity is not relevant and orient them to another activity, and also follow them up, not just offer them an activity, but follow them in the long term, follow their career in the long term, perhaps welcome them again with a new project, but also be able to say to them, okay, now the time has come for you to start functioning a little bit differently. And what I also would like to go back to is this idea of collaboration and creating the network. And I like that image at the end of the ACAMPADOC video, that image of the house, that home as a space where there are so many things that we can do together. We have so much information we can exchange about our activities and what we offer to the public, but also in this collaboration that can enable us to strengthen one another and ourselves, because we are all small organizations, and this is what we're trying to do by working with Haiti, Cuba, Panama, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and of course here the people in French Guiana and also the French West Indies. We are evolving, but we still have steps that have to be taken. And yes, we are aiming to do all of that by being completely eco-responsible. So thank you very much for that conclusion. Thank you to Sylvaine Dampierre, who is the education manager at VARAN CARIBBE. Thank you, Irina Ruiz, the director of ACAMPADOC in Panama. Thank you, Lara Souza for MIRADAS at the Canaries. Thank you to Mohamed Said Ouma, who is joining us from Kenya. Thank you for Emmanuel Chouin, the director of the FIFAC. Thank you to all of those in the team who worked to make it possible. Our technical team that are getting more and more amazing as the days go by. Thank you to Benjamin Laroux, Cédric Ross, Kylian Dadi, and also Anaika Ajaiko, and all the other young people who worked with us, Jonathan. Thank you all. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to you who are connected remotely. We want to remind you that there will be a second roundtable that will be taking place at 2 o'clock Guyane time. So this is about the audiovisual sector in French Guiana, and we hope we'll get a lot of answer to that question. That will be a roundtable that will take place over 3 parts. That will take place at 2 p.m. local time. Thank you.